Beginning transmission. This is the Chaos Community Broadcast, a show about failures and how to navigate complex socio-technical systems so you can surf the chaos without succumbing to it. If you could check us out on YouTube and subscribe to our show, or give us some thumbs up over there, we'd really appreciate it. Also, for a recording of this broadcast, as well as all previous broadcasts, type in chaos.community to a web browser of your choice. I'm your host, James Wickett. So today we're meeting with a competing chaos engineering book author, Mikolaj Pawlikowski, which, Miko, is it okay if I call you Miko? We're really glad to have you on the show.
Yeah, very glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Hey, so since Casey isn't here yet, I'm just wanted to say, I'm really glad you're here because, you're writing a book on chaos engineering. Casey and Nora wrote the book on chaos engineering with a different publisher, so I was worried it might be weird. I'm really glad to see that it isn't. And don't mention that to Casey. He's kind of sensitive about it.
Yeah, I can imagine that. It is a bit awkward, but we'll get through it. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah, well. Oh, hey, I think Casey's coming into the studio now. Hey, so Casey, we started the intro, so now we can just pick up with your part.
And I'm your other host, Casey Rosenthal.
Hey, Casey.
Well, Miko, welcome to the show. Can you start by telling us what led you to write the book, the chaos engineering book? So, Miko, you can just kind of continue, pick up where you were off.
Yeah, thanks for welcoming me for the third time. I appreciate that. What got me into writing the book was a call out of the blue from the manning publisher, really. I'm gonna be honest with you. I wasn't really thinking about that. They gave me a call and, next thing I know, I spent a year writing a book. It's been a beautiful experience. I mean, obviously, right now I kind of hate the book, but hopefully by the time it's in print, I'm gonna like it again.
Well, you're in the home stretch, right? So it's about to hit where people can get access to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's online. It's been in the early access since like chapter 3. So some people, took some time to send me very long emails with list of typos and things I messed up. Appreciate that. It's right now, most of it is available online. So if you want to go and tell me what I did wrong, it's still possible to do that. Yeah. I literally just finished last chapter a few weeks ago. So I'm just kind of trying to wrap it up.
Well, I for one am looking forward to seeing the latest there. I had a very similar experience. It's a love-hate relationship writing a book, right? I do want to say, James, I really don't like it when you start without me.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know you were coming, so good surprise.
Miko, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here. James, you know I have my calisthenics class right before this. I just appreciate it if you'd be more considerate about my schedule before you. Okay, so there was a hypoxic underwater yoga class that I had to miss because of this, and So first question, Miko. Right? First question. Why are seals so powerful?
Well, I think it's mainly because of magic. The whole Powerful Seal was a comic that was initially inspiring this, and it's been haunting me ever since. But it's probably also because they do a lot of aquatic yoga, just like you do, so...
It's no lie. I mean, sharks would seem more reasonable, or polar bear, but can you tell us a little bit about that project?
Sure. So Powerful Seal is essentially, we were just chatting about it a minute ago with James. It's essentially a sleeping aid, if you think about it in a big picture. It happened because I ended up working on this new project that was running Kubernetes like 1.2, pretty, cutting edge, and we're building experience with that. And I didn't really like being cold at night. So I figured that, in order to maximize the number of hours I'm not cold about something breaking that, I would just try to break it beforehand and then, be prepared for the next time. And that crystallized a couple of years later in this open source project that I called Bifurcel. So, gluten-free, vegan, fair trade, sleeping aid.
Okay, that sounds very healthy. And you currently work at Bloomberg?
I do, yeah.
Facebook does it, Google does it, Palantir does it. It is I guess what I'm getting at is, do you have do they have a free salad bar at the office? That's the thing that I miss most about Netflix. Is do they have a free lunch bar, that type of thing at Bloomberg?
I mean, normally I would say, come over, I'll show you, but I don't think that's gonna work out.
Because of the pandemic.
No, because they might not let you in.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
I think I saw your face on one of the posters next to the door.
That doesn't surprise me.
But I I can still come in.
Yeah, you might be alright, James.
Hey, thanks, Miko. I feel the same way.
Just, careful whom you hang out with, yeah.
I really appreciate the free salad bars. That you can tell a good salad bar by how they treat the chickpeas. Um, Really hungry now. James, can you get me a salad with chickpeas and quinoa and stuff? I mean, we're talking about fair trade, vegan, healthy stuff, and that would really hit the spot, James. So
Um,
in your book, you say chaos engineering is to software systems what crash tests are to the car industry. Who's the Ralph Nader of software?
Um, I don't understand your question.
So who is leading the charge on car safety? So this reminds me of a story. So I was down in Winsted, Connecticut a few years back, and I was at Nader's restaurant. I think it was called the Main Street Bakery and Restaurant. Um, and this guy sits down next to me, right? Um, Big fella with his two kids, and this was like, I was just drinking coffee, I was just passing through. This was like lunchtime. He just starts eating dessert, right? Cake and pie. And he's eating a lot. His two kids are playing with these cars. They had just come out. It must have been like the mid 50s. They were die cast cars called Matchbox cars. I don't think they're around anymore, so you might not. Anyway, they're playing loudly with those, like banging the cars together and stuff. And this guy's eating, and a guy sits down next to me. I'm pretty sure it was Ralph Nader on my right, and so this large guy on my left, as he's eating, he's saying, oh, I think my belt is too tight. I'm not sure if I can get out of my seat. And I'm pretty sure that's where Ralph Nader got the idea for seatbelts. So I guess what I'm asking is, who's the person who's leading the charge on system safety and software? And a further question, so Ralph Nader always, one of his beliefs apparently is that you can affect a system through sort of a trickle up by enabling tort law, right? Allowing people to sue those who are in the professions where, you have doctors and CPAs and lawyers who, if they screw up, it's malpractice, and you can sue them. And actors, celebrities, people who are held to a higher standard. Do you think software should also be a regulated profession like that, where, people who are responsible for, if Microsoft's Office goes offline for a couple hours, for example, should people be able to sue the person who wrote that software?
It's a very good and very thoughtful question that I'm unlikely to answer in any extent without first consulting my lawyer. I think that, the landscape would look very different if there was that kind of legal framework for these things to happen. I suspect that a lot of startups would never exist, maybe for better or for the worse. Who knows? But there's definitely a good thing for like an alternative universe, kind of maybe Black Mirror episode on Netflix. Oh wait, you don't work at
Well,
Netflix anymore.
it's time to break to our advertiser I'm sorry, this is great conversation. Need to break in for our advertisement. Auto Strop Safety Razor Company. Far quicker and handier than a no stropping razor. Get one, try it. Write to Auto Strop Safety Razor Company, 61 New Oxford Street, London.
We seem to be spending a lot of time in London these days. Are we stuck in London?
Well, Miko's there, so I thought we should get one, you know.
Yeah, I thought it was just kind of random.
Miko, you mentioned the Peter Parker principle in your book. With great powers come great responsibility. Uh, how to phrase this? I think everyone knows that Kingpin is the real hero of those stories.
Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion.
Yeah, Miko, what I think Casey really means is, can you discuss the application level chaos experimentation and when it's appropriate?
Yeah, that was clear from my question, James. Thank you. But yeah, go ahead, Miko.
Yeah, I do feel like, the kind of new Spider-Verse situation is probably a better representation of that principle. I think that, just like a hint, next book you might want to write it in yourself instead of like getting a bunch of people to write it for you. Then you'll be able to put nuggets like this, and other people will be able to comment on them. Um, in terms of, what did you say, James? Application, chaos, something along those lines.
Yeah, when you're doing infrastructure chaos engineering versus application level, like what could you kind of walk us through that decision matrix on that?
Yeah, it tends to be fairly easy. If you're doing application, you should be doing application level chaos engineering. If you're working infrastructure, it tends to be a better choice. It's a pretty simple choice for me. Although, what do you think?
So, Miko, you bring up a misconception in your book about how people often conflate chaos engineering with the practice of fuzzing. And you do a good job to reiterate about, how controlled experimentation to understand the system is what chaos engineering is about, rather than just, throwing more randomness at the system. Now, do you think people are going to listen to this, or are we going to be having the same conversation 5 years from now?
That's a very good question. Somewhere, somehow, I do hope that, my words will reach their hearts and they will see that there is more to it than just randomly chaos monkeying stuff. But then again, we live in a free society and people are free to make their own choices and they're free to make their bad choices too. So, changing the world one bit at a time is what I'm hoping for. And also, if they don't, I can write another book and still claim that 5 years from now and maybe sell a few more copies.
Speaking of bad decisions, I would like to ask you about doing chaos engineering in production versus staging. This is a common question I get asked. I'm sure you get asked the same thing all the time. And as in your book, you say, I'm quoting here, a lot of content on the internet appears to be centered around, quote, breaking things in production, unquote, quite possibly because it's the most radical thing you can do. But that's not all chaos engineering is about, or even its main focus. I really like that point. I hate the phrase breaking things in production. It was never part of the formal definition of chaos engineering. I'm not really sure how that took off, other than it, sounds good on LinkedIn sounds cool if you say, oh, I break stuff in production. But that doesn't satisfy a business imperative. So what do you recommend to people who have read the blogs or seen marketing material that they should break all the things?
Well, first point would probably be to stop calling your outages breaking things on purpose and production. Second point, you're right. Like I hear this all the time, and I actually consider getting a T-shirt with, saying, no, chaos engineering isn't breaking things randomly in production. I think that, if you actually were interested in an honest answer, it'd probably be that applying the same principles that you do to deploying your software should be also applied to the way that you do chaos engineering. You can probably get fired for releasing buggy stuff directly to prod, I don't see how that's different from doing chaos engineering directly in prod. But there's definitely less sexiness if you don't include that in your presentation, right? So I don't think that's going anytime soon from all the flashy and nice blog posts with a little mountain in the back and some good, stock footage. So I expect we'll have to print some more of these t-shirts over the time.
So is there a GoFundMe to help fight this, or how are you going to handle this, Miko?
That is a very good idea. I should definitely go for GoFundMe. Actually, are you guys in Silicon Valley? Maybe we could start a startup and, get 50 million funding for that.
I would not recommend raising money or doing startups. It's not Is London gonna leave Britain and join the EU?
Hopefully. I mean, maybe. I mean, unlikely. If that answers your question.
How do you like living there? Is that how did you end up in London, and how do you like it?
Yeah, that's a good question. Yeah, I was actually going through my photos, like, when Google Photos sends you, oh, look, this happened a year ago or 6 months ago when I went to actual central London last time. You mentioned Oxford Street. I'm not sure if it exists still. The pandemic does take its toll. Otherwise, it's great. It's a pretty good place to visit. Just don't visit during autumn or winter or any other time than like spring. But it's really nice. Also, not that far from it, Scotland, where you can get even more rained on. I'm liking it. So I ended up here because my previous job was actually in tourism advertisement, and I don't know why they fired me. That was just horrible. I ended up here because a girl I fell in love with was living in London, so I said bye-bye France, packed my things in a Toyota Yaris, and drove to London. Quite an experience.
That's a lovely story, and I look forward to everybody reading your book and giving us feedback on it. It's a fantastic book. Thank you so much for joining us on the show, Miko.
Well, that was almost a pleasure.
Well, that concludes our show, folks. You can find us on YouTube, and of course, we would love your subscriptions and your thumbs up over there. That really helps us. And to see notes on this broadcast, as well as previous broadcasts, go to chaos.community in the web browser of your choice. Ending transmission now.